So let's talk about the spear, because let's just open this up for a little bit. Like, because now this is a conversation that is back up. And I think people are just dying to either defend the spear or to drag it through and say, like, hey, let's get rid of this thing. So if so let's toss around some things that can make this either better or just should it be the exact same. I feel like everyone kind of has a thought on what to do with the spear, even if it's their own personal bias one way or another. Kirk, do you have a feeling? Well, what would you do with the spear throw? Is it good the way it is, or what do we do now?
Well, it's a mute conversation because nothing will change with it. However, if they can find a way to control the circumstances more, I feel it is a good obstacle, to be honest. And it's not benefited me this year at all. I think that practicing a skill-oriented obstacle in which you can't blame outside circumstances for your miss, which there's a lot of cases where you can, if we could sterile that environment more, I think it stays. I think it's a good mental exercise more than a physical. If it stays, that is, if it can be controlled better than it has been. And that the answer to that, I don't know what that is, but that's my take.
I see it like biathlon, where you have to get your heart rate down, hit a target. A lot of biathletes have had success in OCR. I don't know. I feel like it's a skill. Most of the people who are in this race, even on the newcomers, they've run at least 5 Spartans. Most of the top contenders have run 30, 40 in their life. It's not a surprise what's coming. You should be able to do it. And it is very unfortunate when you have inconsistency with the material, but overall, you should keep a spear. You just need to find a way to make it consistent every time.
And think from viewership, like when I go watch a race, if I could pick 10 seconds of a race to watch, where would I go? I'd fast forward right to the spear throw to see what happened. Like, it's still got us kind of on that hook as far as viewership. Like, that is still the most exciting potential turn of events in a race from like any sort of stand. Like, it can shake it up. That's what makes it great. Like, do I like it like as a demonstration of athleticism? Absolutely not. It's complete horseshit. But I think those other factors make it worth staying in.
It's the thing. It's like no one likes it, right? I think if you ask anybody, that's not like the sled push in a high rocks event where some people might like it. That might be strength athletes, but it's going to ruin a lot of races. It's going to turn things upside down. But some people might like it. The spear,
I like it.
You like it.
Mm-hmm. I like it,
and that's why I'm not allowed to make a decision on whether it should be here or not. But what I can say is that people need to use real arguments for why it should or shouldn't be here. Everyone's getting so emotional about this.
Right.
There are 2 camps. There's a camp there have been an unnamed high couple of OCR athletes who are like, it's not an athletic skill. It's not a test of athleticism. It's just it's random luck and chance. That's a terrible argument because there's no luck or chance to it at all, other than he was unlucky that his target broke.
Besides,
it is a skill. Throwing is one of the core competencies of athleticism. So that's a terrible argument. You can train to hit it 100% of the time, and you can't do anything that's luck-based 100% of the time. So get rid of that argument. And on the other side, people are like, it has no place in this sport. It's not an obstacle. Well, this sport is Spartan racing. Spartan invented that version of the sport, and the spear was the first thing they came up with. So it absolutely has a place in this sport. Don't add it to OCR Worlds. Don't add it to Savage Race. It has no place in that sport. But like we were saying before, this is its own sport. It absolutely has its place here. And it was here before you. You can't come in, not be good at it or not like it, and then say, oh, it doesn't have a place here. That's not a real obstacle. Like, go run the other races. It was here a decade before you even found the sport. So I just don't like the bad arguments for it. If they take it out, sure, fine. I don't care. I like it in because people complain about it. It gets in their head and they miss it. But we just have bad arguments for why it should be gone.
The athleticism piece, that is a terrible argument. Are monkey bars more athletic than throwing?
A heavy carry?
Yeah.
That's an obstacle.
Literally no athleticism.
Heavy
carry is a task.
Over under through. Yeah. Yes.
And luck?
Luck, that's also bad.
That's like saying free throws are luck. Only bad free throw shooters need to get lucky.
And I like kind of along the lines of what Kirk was saying. It does have some, it's interesting because the race can change so much. Most races, once things separate, no matter what you're talking about, track or cross country, bike racing. It's like once things kind of separate, that's where the race kind of happens. Then it's like what's going to happen in one pack versus a middle pack. The packs never like flip flop, or people can't be in like 10th and then be in second in an instant. So it makes it kind of unique in terms of the race itself, which is that's one of the ups and downs and the mental aspects of Spartan races, that it's never over. And this is one of the pieces that really kind of keep it together. But like, and we've been in it for so long, but if I just learned about Spartan race and they're like, oh yeah, and then you throw this spear into some foam, like, I think it's dumb. I think it just is silly.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the brand.
Yeah.
So if they got rid of it, who cares? But you can't get rid of it because you don't like it. And this is what some people forget. Who's calling for it? The runners who have never figured out how to do it, or the people who are really good at obstacles who hate the fact that their obstacle prowess isn't rewarded there. Well, these people aren't going to be on top forever. You're going to get rid of the spear. The runners are going to get better at obstacles, and you're going to be obsolete. Or they're going to make obstacles so difficult like OCR Worlds that you're going to wish you had a spear to get you back into it after you fail the rig. Like they're just complaining because they're not making it. It's, again, I don't even care if it's there or not. Just argue a good argument.
Do you think that there's, Race Brain Mexico, they're having their podcast right now, and Ciro's on it, and he's like, spear's fine. Get rid of that swim. That's a bad obstacle. Like,
right. Where it's just bad for him.
Yeah.
Right.
It's picking and choosing. Like, some people have more success at certain things. Like other athletes have fallen off Olympus time after time. You're like, just figure it out. It's not that hard.
Get rid of it.
Their spear. Yeah, I know you feel how it hurts, but
Get rid of it.
I feel like it's a lot of picking and choosing, and it's not a surprise that it's there. And the fact that you had on the, like, it's a shame, but all the women in like the top 10 missed it. It's not like one person had a favorable outcome. Most of the top men ended up missing it. So it was inconsistent to everybody.
We need to be careful getting rid of the outlier pieces, because pretty soon you're going to have a really sterile product that everyone's like, this isn't even challenging.
And it's already pretty close to that.
And it sets a precedent. Like,
Yeah.
is that, okay, his target was bad. We can agree on that. But saying the spears have different distances sometimes, or they're different weights, or sometimes the ropes are on the wrong side. No one called for rigs to be gone when they switched to that black slick nunchuck. Or they forgot to take the wrapping off of one of them one time and everyone slipped off. No one's like, well, there's no place for rigs and variants in this sport. Everyone's like, Savage is awesome because they change their rig every time. So it's faulty logic that frustrates me.
So what could we do? Okay, so we keep the spear. Spear staying.
Get rid of
I
it.
think
Who cares?
I think it should stay. And I think that but how could it be better? You know, like, what could it be? Is there a way, like, Bracken, I really do like that suggestion of just have a tennis ball at the end and hit it, have it make a noise or something like that. And then it's
if we're the 300 Spartans, if that's really why we're doing this, because it was made off the Battle of Thermopylae, it didn't matter whether your spear stuck. If it struck someone and fell out,
it's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt. We don't care.
Probably
Like,
hurt.
sticking isn't the issue. It's hitting.
Yeah.
There's no sport that requires sticking with your throw. It doesn't matter if the catcher drops it. He could just tag the
Still
guy or
strike.
throw it down to first.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah.
So
You basically have a
Target.
target. You have a target half the size of a door, the same width, but half the height, and you're 25 feet away from it. I don't see the difficulty in keeping something where all you have to do is throw it and hit it. Maybe if you want to shrink it to a quarter of that size and just graze it, make contact with it, that has some accuracy element, and it doesn't matter if it sticks with it. That could be a reasonable, solution, but it's a giant thing that you're throwing from a pretty short distance away.
make it a bonus, like the basketball bonus. It's a 1-and-1, but a reverse 1-and-1. If you miss the second, the first, you get a second throw. But the penalty is going to be more harsh now.
Or the penalty is now you have to pull it.
You got to pull it back.
and
It takes longer.
Yeah.
It's
This
multiple
is-
retry.
That's
Yeah,
what I
right.
like, because that's something that made the tire flip interesting in Spartan and kind of made it a game change. You were kind of at your own mercy of when to take the penalty. And like sometimes, like we saw Logan in Jacksonville, he was aware enough to be like, I'm not going to flip this. I'm just going to move on. Or other people spent 60, 90, 120 seconds trying to flip it, didn't, then went and did their burpees. Like, why not just pull it back in and throw it again and do it 5 times if you don't want to do burpees? like there or 3 max, and then you have to take it. Like, why shouldn't it be multiple tries?
Because you're losing time anyway.
You're losing a bunch of time
with the act of aiming, pulling it back re-aiming. It adds up.
That's the best happy medium if you want to just appease all camps. And I think nobody would really scoff at that. And it's giving an athlete a decision to actually be made there for the first time, and that would be enough to keep people happy.
Yeah.
I think what everyone, maybe not everyone, but I think what most people really just want is the punishment to fit the crime. They're tired of running a great race, missing a 1 second throw, and having 90 seconds of burpees if they're lucky, and then being trashed coming up. Like, let the punishment fit the crime. If you miss a 1 second throw, you got to pull back in and rethrow that 1 second throw. If you fall off a 30-foot rig, there should be like getting part of the way down is rewarded. And there are obstacle races that do these things, or they allow you to take chances.
You're just going to get the backup argument pushed back on that so heavy. Yeah. Even in an elite race, you might end up with backups, let alone an age group or an open. That'd be the tough one to combat. Even if you were like 2 attempts or 3 attempts, it's going to end up being a huge problem.
There's a counter to that. They used to just have a bale of spears or a barrel stuck there with 15 spears. And they got rid of that because they didn't want it being dangerous, and volunteers used to have to go get them and bring them back. But now if you just have to hit a soft target, throw a spear, miss, grab another one, miss, grab another one. Like, there are counters to all of this. Does it have to be a spear that's dangerous?
But then what happens?
Coat it with a tennis ball.
Then what happens? You need to gather all those people, show up in a group, and it's like, hold on, I don't want to get hit by a spear. Wait here for 30 seconds while I gather all these and place them in a bucket again. You
need like the spear version of like a bowling alley. You throw that bowling ball down there, and it just gets whipped right back.
Shoots right back at you.
Bowling alley.
I think what we agree on is that the punishment doesn't match the crime, and that there's a better way of testing the skill and punishing it correctly. Like, what if you can't? The opposite. I think heavy carries don't get enough trashing by the community. If you come in with one deficiency and it's a heavy carry, and you're set up a ski hill, you could lose 5 minutes on that. So by that thing, is the spear throw really that unfair? No, people just want it to be cleaner.
Yeah. Or the swimming analogy we gave earlier, with some people really struggle. Like, there are certain moments when you can gain or lose time. Most of the course is 1 or 2 seconds here and there. Yeah, they just want an even penalty.
And maybe to combat that, each spear has its rope or whatever, and you go to it, and then there is the retry corral. And that's where the backup can happen.
And that's appropriate.
It doesn't ruin anyone else's race except for people who are already punished. You got to go over there and throw until you hit it, because what is the test? Can you throw with accuracy under duress? That's all it is. So until you prove that, you can't move on.
Or take the penalty.
But you have to go over there and rethrow. And if it's stacked up 20 deep, go run a quarter mile and head on.
Do the penalty. Yeah.
I like the retry throw, because then, like you just mentioned right there, if there are 12 people in line, you're like, it's just going to be faster to do the burpees or whatever instead of waiting. You can kind of pick your poison, but you still get penalized for missing something. And you can be like, all right, we'll do this for age group, anybody with a red headband, elite and age group, first heats, and then as black headbands happen for open heat later in the day, now you open them all up so that you have more facilities for people to use and less confusion.
Could you increase or decrease the difficulty and be like, I'm going to take the easy spear and then have a longer route to run out of here?
What, like a 5-foot spear?
Something like that. Just like,
and a 40-foot spear cuts a quarter mile off the course.
Yeah.
Now we're just dreaming, fellas.
Well, they used to have these things.
Race brainstorm.
They used to have, it was called the Gambler or something like that back in the day. You got to choose 2 different routes. One had had more heavy obstacles like tire flip and plate drag, but it was only half mile long. The other one was a mile long, but had just walls. Like, they used to have some of these, and it was really unfair, because one route was always way easier. And basically what it came down to is whatever the leader took, everyone else took to avoid getting hosed, until like 6th place. He was like, I got to roll the dice and all. So it wasn't good, but there are versions. But I think the easy way is don't make it one and done.
Yeah. All right. So if we had to change the spear, we would think multiple attempts. and then
up to 3 or something, because you can't have a huge backup. That's unfair to everybody else later on.
Going to be tough to
And
officiate.
you throw once, and then you get to the back of the line. If no one's there, you can throw it again. But
should there be that secondary, the miss line? I kind of like the idea of having.
You can't punish the people coming in behind you.
Yes, so
no one should ever have to
move,
wait on course.
You have to move to the miss.
Yeah,
hay bale or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to choose your own penalty, like not or like choose when you can. So like, or do you have to throw 3 times until you miss it and then take the penalty, or can you take it on the first time?
Yeah, you're losing ground anyway, just standing there.
I like that about the tire flip. I thought that was cool, like that you had to have a strategy. It's like, all right, 30 seconds in, if it's not flipped, I need to take the burpees. But then you get stubborn. You're like, no, I'm strong.
I just don't like the tap and go. Like, imagine touching your spear. Like, I'm going to miss it anyway. I'm just going to go and do my penalty. Like,
what if it wasn't a spear?
Yeah.
Basketball?
What it was no, just a different throwing implement where you could have hundreds of them stacked up there.
They
hundreds
have
of targets.
In winter races in Europe, they have a snowball throw.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm not saying
cool.
it's that, but if the spear's dumb, but throwing's athletic, or at that point, are we just done with it entirely?
Well, then it's outside of the branding, because there's definitely a branding element that you mentioned, Bracken, that is like why they want this thing here, because that movie 300 exists. Let's go. Maybe it's like, what happens in that movie? Someone gets kicked down a hole. Maybe you kick something, like a 300 kick, somebody.
Then you have to get yourself out of a trench afterwards. You just go down there. I don't know. Something tells me getting kicked in the middle of a race probably isn't a good strategy. But
We'll bring the actual Spartans with the big Q-tips back, and you have to kick one of them.
I think the point is we just spent 10 minutes talking about this and we had some decent ideas. Spartan could just have one little group meeting and say, we're going to meet 3 times over the course of the week. And then by the end of it, we have our 2023 spear strategy.
Yeah.
Well, we're making ours. So multiple attempts, then choose your own. And I think that's fair. Choose when you want to take the penalty. 3 attempts max.
I think if you do that, you have to complete 3 attempts first.
But what if it's like your 11th in line and then you have to wait for?
I think you should choose.
People?
I think you should be able to choose.
What situation are we in where in an elite wave, there's 11 people stacked up behind one target in the retry? Like if you have 3 or 4 targets in the retry area, you'll never see more than 5 people at a spear in one race.
If you have it at mile 12 versus mile 2, that's the difference. Mile 2, you might still have.
They rarely do that anyway.
What's the worst case scenario though? 25 people at mile 2 on the spear.
They had an issue.
4 lanes for retry.
San
I just don't think
they had that a couple of years ago, or maybe like 2019. Angel was in the race actually. I remember that, and like it was the first obstacle, and every single person got there, and there were like 7 people waiting. They're like, "I need a spear," and people were hopping over the.
That's a design flaw.
Yeah,
that's bad course design.
They just screwed that up.
I don't think you can put a number on it, because I really think you're going to go from the regular spear thrown area to the penalty 2nd, 3rd try spear throw area. Like, who's real? Well, you're going to have a volunteer follow you from one to the next. Not every wave has video cameras on them. There's going to be so much blasphemy and cheating and bullshit, especially in the age group waves. And I think that you just either say go nuts or you get one try. Like, it's got to, I don't know if you can count them.
Unlimited attempts.
It's going to be too messy.
Don't
you think about it? Like,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. If someone's like, that was your 3rd, like, that was my 2nd. I see what you're saying.
I just think it's going to be impossible to officiate.
Unlimited attempts.
That's just my opinion.
I like it.
Yeah.
What if it was like a restaurant dishwashing system? Where like in the retry lane, you come to the 2nd one and you throw it and you miss and you have got to move to this. Like you just move down. One throw and you move to the next one. Then you don't have to count because the people behind you and the volunteers know you've thrown. You've got to move to the 2nd one.
And then you get
3rd.
And at the end, then you get kicked. You get 300 kicked into a pit.
Yeah,
that's your penalty. I like
that. Would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The logistics, we can leave that up to somebody else, but.
There might be a place for an entire what to do with the spear throat episode, kind of like we did with Maud. I feel like we could probably go for 90 minutes on that if we had to, but let's not.
This is plenty.
I agree.
Because this is one of those things like that I don't really love talking about, but like if there needs to be an improvement, like there's ways to improve it.
Yeah.
Final submission.
Okay.
Okay.
Spear throw is no longer part of the race. for the elite wave. It's for open only. But age group and elite get to come up, and if they want to throw it, it is a shortcut that just there's always like an out and back loop, and you just get to cut across it if you want to throw the spear. It's a Mario World shortcut. If you want to throw the spear, it is a shortcut, and if you miss it, you're back on the course and you got to do the regular course anyway.
Could you imagine if that was the case in Mexico and you had athletes who didn't speak Spanish trying to see how they do that?
This would be branding. Like, this is the company.
You make how it's done.
Yeah, and you'd have to do this like 2023. You can't re-implement this the rest of the year because outcomes would have changed if that wasn't the case.
No, we're talking for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking for never, but we are still
impact the race unless you choose to attempt it. And the shortcut is not so crazy that people are like, that's unfair, but it's tempting for people who are confident. And if you miss it, you've cost yourself the 20 seconds of reeling it in and throwing the spear.
And it gives you that excitement factor without the disappointment, right? Because it was so disappointing when Emma missed the spear at the end and they didn't get to do that bucket carry against each other. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, womp womp.
No one could lose the race on it, but Lindsay could have chosen to do it to sneak back into the race.
Yes. If you miss an obstacle early in the race, you can have the choice to maybe make up some of that ground.
They have the Joker lap in rally racing. And it's a different lap that's a little slower or just sometimes faster, but you can only take it once, but you can't take it more than once. And there's no rule on when you take it. And so cars it makes the races exciting because someone's leading, but they got to take their Joker soon. And this guy already took his joke, and it keeps things exciting. And they did it intentionally. They added it to just add intrigue to the race. It'd be like our version of that, where if you want to get back into the race, go try a spear throw shortcut.
Yeah. Wasn't there triathlon racing? I've seen tiny clips of it where they had like a tube or something, and it's like, here's the hot lane. They're gonna try to cut the course. I don't know the full specifics, but I saw a couple of highlights. I thought like the Brownlee brothers and some really high level triathletes were doing it during a race. Do you know what I'm talking about, Brocken?
Not really, but I like the idea of the hot lane.
Yeah.
You can't lose by not doing it.
Yeah.
You can't lose by doing it, but it could help or hurt you slightly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
But
I don't hate it. All right. Let's go.
Imagine that. Emma comes in, bypasses it, and she's running an out and back 400, watching to see if Lindsay throws. And Lindsay hits it, and she just to cut 200 of the meters off or something like that.
So you'd have them come up to the spear, 180, go back so that the competition can see if you threw it or not. I think that's how they should do penalty loops anyway.
Or
I
a
think
loop.
I think that's how penalty loops should be, so you could see if somebody missed. Sometimes you're just like in the woods. It should always just be a backtrack and then go forward.
Yep.
Okay.
I almost forgot we were talking about Mexico. Maybe we should get back to that.
Let's vote on this first. Let's come to a decision on how we like. Kirk, what do you think? What are your thoughts on what we talked about? What do you like best?